This is my simple chocolate cake recipe from my 5+2 series, where I use 5 baking staples in every bake and 2 additions for each bake. This chocolate cake comes out fantastically every time. It is delicious. You can have it as a snack, you can have it as puddings, and let's show you how to do it. I've started off with my 5 main staple ingredients. I've got flour, this is self-raising flour, sugar, milk, baking spread, and bicarbonate of soda. And my 2 additions for this bake are lemon juice and cocoa powder. Now there is an optional extra with this, which is icing sugar if you want frosting on your cake. Now you can actually make icing sugar from granulated sugar, which is one of my 5 staples. You just whiz it down with the food processor or a hand blender and make it into a really nice fine powder. But it takes so long, so I'm just going to use the icing sugar. So I'm starting off by adding 300 millilitres of milk into my jug. This is going to be for my fake buttermilk. This is what helps the cake to rise. So along with that, I just need some kind of acid. It does say that you can use apple cider vinegar, but I can always taste it in bakes. So I just put in a good squeeze of lemon juice, and then you just leave that at the side to do its thing. It'll start to curdle, and that's what you want it to look like. It does look scary, but go with the process. I need 150 grams of margarine. I rarely use actual butter in my bakes because this is so much cheaper and it does the job for me. And then I need 300 grams of self-raising flour. I've said in one of my posts before that you can add baking powder to plain flour to make it into the self-raising flour. That's perfectly fine to do that, but because I'm also using bicarbonate of soda, it tends to be quite a lot of raising agent, and raising agent is not always very kind to the stomach if you get too much of it. So I've just opted for the self-raising flour. I'm putting in my sugar here. That's 200 grams of sugar. It's just granulated sugar because that's what I use for all of my bakes. I never bother buying special caster sugar or anything. This just works. And then I need a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. Feel free to get your teaspoons out and measure it, but I just tend to eyeball it because I don't like messing up the spoons. It also needs 4 tablespoons of cocoa powder. I quite like my chocolate cakes really nice and dark, so I haven't even used a tablespoon here. I have literally just got a dessert spoon and piled it in. That's just the way I like it. Give that a little bit of a mix just to get it started. It is quite messy. You'll see here it's going all over the table, but that doesn't matter. This is home baking. I just want to get this started and then I can add in my mixture. You'll see there that milk looks all curdled and quite lumpy. Do not worry, this is how it's supposed to look. Just pop it into the bowl and give it a mix. It doesn't take too long to come together. Just keep mixing until it's all combined. Once it's mixed, then you just need to decide what tin you're going to be baking it in. These are sandwich tins, but you could also use cupcake ones. That's absolutely fine. It works in both. I'm going to line my tins with this greaseproof paper, but this is the way I line tins. Keep with me. I know it might look complicated, but I will try and explain it as I do it. It's just quite a lot of folding of paper, to be honest. I take a big piece of greaseproof paper that I know is going to be wide enough for 2 of my tins. I fold it in half and then I fold it in half again, and you'll see there that I'm showing you this tin will actually fit the diameter on that piece. So that now is 4 circles that I could get out of this. But this is the other little bit that I like to do. I fold it in half again, keep my eye on that middle point because that's going to be the middle of my cake tin, and then fold it into a triangle. So if I put this point in the middle of my cake tin, I can then see where I want to cut to make my circles for the bottom of it. So you just get your scissors. You probably need a pair that are slightly sharper than mine. These are the blunter pair in my drawer, but they're what I had to hand. And then if you chop that off, when you open it up, you'll have circles. Now, I've actually made these too big, and I always generally make them too big because I would rather cut a little bit more off than have to start again because I cut them too small in the first place. So just trim a little bit more off around that edge, and then you'll be able to see that when you open it up, I will now have 4 discs that I can fit perfectly in the bottom of my cake tins. Now I only actually have 3 cake tins here, so I'm going to take that 4th piece, I'm going to dip it in my margarine and use it for spreading the marge around my baking tin. This is just to grease them. I know I've got greaseproof on the bottom, but the margarine does actually help that greaseproof paper to stick. And I like to get that grease all around the edges because that means that my cake's not going to stick in there when I'm trying to take it out later. So it's not going to break. So just get those greased all over. There's no real precision to this. It just needs to be spread around. And then you're just going to pop those greaseproof paper discs that you've cut into the bottom of them. And then they're going to be ready for filling in your mixture. This is quite a large mix, so it does fill the 3 tins. You can weigh it out if you want to make sure you've got the same mixture in each tin, but I'm just doing this by sight. This is home baking, so I'm not overly worried. Those eager-eyed of you will be able to spot that I didn't quite mix in all my margarine properly, so that had to be done again. So once you've got it in, just spread it round, and you'll see here that I'm kind of pushing all the mixture up to the edges and leaving a bit of a dip in the middle. That's because as my cake cooks, it's going to have a dome, and so this means that it's a bit flatter. And then these just need to go in the oven at 175 for about 25 minutes. Now, whilst my cakes are in the oven, I'm going to get started on my frosting with that optional extra of my icing sugar. For my icing sugar, again, I'm just using margarine. You can use butter if you want, but like I say, this always works perfectly fine for me, so why mess with it? I'm just going to get this softened up. You could use a hand mixer to mix this, but I'm just trying to show you with the real basics. So I just want this nice and soft so that when I get the icing sugar in there, it's easy to mix in essentially. I'm putting in 280 grams of icing sugar. This will go all over whether you're doing it by hand or whether you're doing it with a hand mixer. So just be aware you will be choking on ice and sugar fumes. And I'm going to put in some cocoa powder. Again, I sort of do this to taste. If you want it really dark, put in quite a bit. If you don't, put in less. If you put in a little bit, and then you can always add some more to it to your taste as you're going along. So really just give it a little try. Give it a little bit of a mix up to get it started, and pop a drop of milk in there. It just sort of loosens it up, and it also stops that ice and sugar from sort of flying all over because it mixes in quicker. Just keep mixing and mixing until it's all mixed in together. I can't say the word mix much more, but you'll see it doesn't have any lumps in it. It doesn't have any bits of margarine left. There will be people out there who are screaming, she should have sieved that ice and sugar. Yes, I probably should have sieved the ice and sugar, but I'm not bothered. My children aren't bothered. It all goes down the same way, and it all still tastes perfectly fine. So I've mixed it up there, and then once I've done that, that can go in the fridge for when I'm actually ready to decorate the cakes. Now, I have to apologise here because life took over and they wanted this for pudding, and I totally forgot to film the first bit. So I'd already cut off a slight bit of the dome of one of these chocolate cakes, which is why you can see all those crumbs there. This does not look pretty, but this is how my world was working. I've just put some of my buttercream in there already. Put another layer on top. I've actually put this one on upside down because it sort of gives that nice flat bit to be able to ice on. Stick on some more buttercream. Stick your last one on the top of it. I had some buttercream left over, so I thought, why not pop it on the top? Sometimes if I haven't, I'll just sprinkle a bit of ice and sugar on there. But I had this spare bit of buttercream, so I popped that on there. And because I had some of these kicking around in the cupboard as well, I also added a few extra sprinkles just to make it a bit brighter. But it's tasty with or without the sprinkles. So there you have it. This is my basic chocolate cake on my 5+2 recipe. It comes out fantastic every time. You could have this as puddings, you could have this as a snack, you could just have it as a treat, to be honest. Let me know if you've made it. I'd love to hear how it went for you. I'll see you in the next video.